'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrayed. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by a tumtum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, frabjous day, Callooh, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrey. Hello and welcome to the Oak Tree English poetry live stream. Today, as you know, I'm doing poems of adventure. There is one main reason for doing this, and it's the following poem. The next poem, I've recently got a new job, and a new job brings with it a new boss. My new boss is a sporty type who likes nothing better than jumping up mountains, I think. So I suggested that he read this poem because it's kind of cool about getting over mountains. And he found the poem too long. So I am doing a recording of it to help him to mean that so that he doesn't have to read it himself. The poem is called The Explorer, and it's by Rudyard Kipling. For this, I'm going to need an Indiana Jones style hat. Don't copyright, sorry. There's no sense in going further. It's the edge of cultivation. So they said, and I believed it. Broke my land and sowed my crop. Built my barns and strung my fences in the little border station, tucked away below the foothills where the trails run out and stop. Till a voice as bad as conscience rang interminable changes, on one everlasting whisper, day and night repeated so. Something hidden, go and find it. Go and look behind the ranges. Something lost behind the ranges, lost and waiting for you. Go. So I went, worn out of patience, never told my nearest neighbours. Stole away with pack and ponies, left them drinking in the town. And the faith that moveth mountains didn't seem to help my labours, as I faced the sheer main ranges whipping up and leading down. March by march I puzzled through 'em, turning flanks and dodging shoulders. Hurried on in hope of water, headed back for lack of grass. Till I camped above the tree line, drifted snow and naked boulders. Felt free air astir to windward. Knew I'd stumbled on the pass. Thought to name it for the finder, but that night the norther found me. Froze and killed the plains-bred ponies, so I called the camp Despair. It's the railway gate today, though. Then my whisper waked to hound me. Something lost behind the ranges. Over yonder go you there. Then I knew, the while I doubted, knew his hand was certain o'er me. Still, it might be self-delusion. Scores of better men had died. I could reach the township living, but he knows what terror tore me. But I didn't. I went down the other side. Till the snow ran out in flowers, and the flowers turned to aloes, and the aloes sprung to thickets, and a brimming stream ran by. But the thickets twined to thorn scrub, and the water drained to shallows, and I dropped again on desert, blasted earth, and blasting sky. I remember lighting fires. I remember sitting by them. I remember seeing faces, hearing voices through the smoke. I remember they were fancy, for I threw a stone to try 'em. Something lost behind the ranges was the only word they spoke. I remember going crazy. I remember that I knew it when I heard myself hallooing to the funny folk I saw. Very full of dreams, that desert, but my 2 legs took me through it, and I used to watch 'em moving, with the toes all black and raw. But at last the country altered, white man's country, past disputing, rolling grass and open timber, with a hint of hills behind. There I found me food and water, and I lay a week recruiting, got my strength and lost my nightmares. Then I entered on my find. Thence I ran my first rough survey, chose my trees and blazed and ringed 'em. Week by week I pried and sampled. Week by week my findings grew. Saul, he went to look for donkeys, and by God he found a kingdom. But by God, who sent his whisper, I had struck the worth of 2. Up along the hostile mountains, where the hair-poised snowslide shivers, down and through the big fat marshes that the virgin orbed stains, till I heard the mile-wide mutterings of unimagined rivers, and beyond the nameless timber saw illimitable plains. Plot sites of future cities, traced the easy grades between them, watched unharmed rapids wasting 50,000 head an hour, counted leagues of water frontage through the axe-ripe woods that screen 'em, saw the plant to feed a people, up and waiting for the power. Well, I know who'll take the credit. All the clever chaps that followed. Came a dozen men together, never knew my desert fears. Tracked me by the camps I'd quitted, used the water holes I'd hollowed. They'll go back and do the talking. They'll be called the pioneers. They will find my sites of townships, not the cities that I set there. They will rediscover rivers, not my rivers heard at night. By my own old marks and bearings, they will show me how to get there. By the lonely cairns I builded, they will guide my feet aright. Have I named one single river? Have I claimed one single acre? Have I kept one single nugget, barring samples? No, not I. Because the price was paid me 10 times over by my maker. But you wouldn't understand it. You go up and occupy. Ores you'll find there, wood and cattle. Water transit sure and steady. That should keep the railway rates down. Coal and iron at your doors. God took care to hide that country till he judged his people ready. He chose me for his whisper, and I found it, and it's yours. Yes, your never, never country. Yes, your edge of cultivation. And no sense in going further till I cross the range to sea. God forgive me. No, I didn't. It's God's present to our nation. Anybody might have found it, but his whisper came to me. It's one of my favorite poems in the world. I do love it very, very much. Right. Well, let's keep this adventurous train rolling on. I've got 2 more poems for you. One more narrative. This one, I think I've done it before, but I'm going to do it again because I like it. The Green Eye of the Little Yellow God. There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of Mad Carew, and the yellow god forever gazes down. He was known as Mad Carew by the subs at Kathmandu. He was hotter than they felt inclined to tell. But for all his foolish pranks, he was worshipped in the ranks, and the colonel's daughter smiled on him as well. He had loved her all along with a passion of the strong. The fact that she loved him was plain to all. She was nearly 21, and arrangements had begun to celebrate her birthday with a ball. He wrote to ask what present she would like from Mad Carew. They met next day as he dismissed a squad, and jestingly she told him that nothing else would do but the green eye of the little yellow god. On the night before the dance, Mad Carew seemed in a trance, and they chaffed him as they puffed at their cigars. But for once he failed to smile, and he sat alone a while, then went out into the night beneath the stars. He returned before the dawn, with his shirt and tunic torn, and a gash across his temple dripping red. He was patched up right away. He slept through all the day, and the colonel's daughter watched beside his bed. He woke at last and asked if they could send his tunic through. She brought it, and he thanked her with a nod. He bade her search the pocket, saying, "That's from Mad Carew." And she found the little green eye of the god. She upbraided poor Carew in the way that women do, that both her eyes were strangely hot and wet. But she wouldn't take the stone, and Mad Carew was left alone with the jewel that he'd chanced his life to get. When the ball was at its height on that still and tropic night, she thought of him and hurried to his room. As she crossed the barrack square, she could hear the dreamy air of a waltz tune softly stealing through the gloom. His door was open wide, with silver moonlight shining through. The place was wet and slippery where she trod. An ugly knife lay buried in the heart of Mad Carew. 'Twas the vengeance of the little yellow god. There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of Mad Carew, and the yellow god forever gazes down. I'm going to end with one last poem. This will be familiar to anyone who has been to the British Museum. I met a traveller from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Thank you very much for joining me on this poetry live stream. It's a little bit shorter than usual, only 4 poems, because the main point of it was the explorer. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you all feel very adventurous now. May I encourage you, because YouTube is YouTube, to subscribe, to click that bell, to like this video, and to share it around on social media so that I get a little bit more coverage, because everybody needs to see me. Okay, maybe everybody doesn't need to see me, but if you could do anything like that, that would really help. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Goodbye and God bless.